Welcome everyone to the Savvy Ladies Wednesday Wisdom webinar. I'm Maggie Montemuro and I'm the Marketing Manager at Savvy Ladies. I'd like to take a second to remind you that if you have any questions during the webinar, you can type them into the chat box or you can email info@savvyladies.org. Today's presenter is Leisa Peterson, founder of Wealth Clinic. Leisa is a business wealth coach, money mindfulness expert, podcaster, and blogger. She is also a certified financial planner, has an MBA in finance, and has over 23 years of experience in personal finance. Leisa is pioneering a unique system that reveals the unconscious truths about money and how to stop scarcity mindset from limiting one's potential. She is helping thousands of people develop practical skills for attracting greater wealth, freedom, and peace of mind into their lives, which improves their relationship with money. Thanks for being with us, Leisa, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Maggie, so much. I'm so excited to be here and just want to welcome everyone. Welcome all the Savvy Ladies for being here and participating today. So I'm really excited about this talk, and I just want to say that you're in the right place if you've ever felt an increasing sense of wanting to have greater fulfillment, clarity, and joy in your life. And if you're feeling this pull to create a more fulfilling, satisfying life, then I think you're in the right place, because what I'm hoping to do today is share some things that I've learned over my path and really hopefully provide a map that helps you to learn more about how to shape your life according to the desire to get what you most want, and that by moving in that direction that you can really bring your dreams into reality. And I thought about this talk. It's actually the first time I've given it before, and so please be patient with me if things aren't flowing in this beautiful, flawless presentation, but I think that you'll really appreciate the soulfulness of where we're going to come from today. But what I know that I see in the people that I work with and the clients and the folks that I talk to through my blog and podcast is that buried inside each of us is this pursuit of really wanting things, wanting money, status, power, success, pleasure, all these things that we know there are opportunities to experience those, but there's also behind all of that this sense of emptiness and a hunger to go deeper inside. This desire to go deeper stems from a sense of wanting to understand what I think is the meaning of our lives. And by knowing this, we know that we'll become more empowered to live richer, more authentic, and healthier lives. And my intention today is to help you walk away with a few ideas for living this way. And I truly believe that by becoming more aware of who you are and knowing why you do the things you do, you become more empowered to achieve the success that you ultimately desire. And first, I want to start. I'm a meditation and mindfulness teacher, and I would love to start with a visualization because I really know the power in just getting really present and putting the distractions away. This is a very short talk, and if we can just kind of shut that stuff, all the distractions, the computer, the phone, the email down, and take a moment to imagine, just like this picture, that we're on a warm beach together, sitting in a circle. So this circle of savvy ladies all sitting together in the nice warm sun and just experiencing the brilliance that each of us bring to this experience. Taking a nice deep breath in and just feeling that circle of support and love in this moment, that all of your needs are taken care of, and that you're really here to witness and share your love with one another, with yourself in this moment. And even if we're in a virtual world, we can create this in our mind's eye and just feel a sense of connectedness, of protection, creating almost like a boundary of protection around us. Another nice deep breath and just settling into your most soulful sense. And I'd like to begin with just a short little story that I think hits home some of what I'll be sharing with you today. And that is about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I declared to the world, which is, via Facebook these days, I declared via Facebook that I was about to make some really big changes in my life. Having created a virtual business over the past previous year and talking to my husband and my family, there was a decision made that we were going to sell most of our stuff and spend the year or spend some time traveling. And I had this picture that had really stuck in my mind that I'm sharing with you, which is a woman, not me yet, standing at the top of Haleakala Crater in Maui. And I said to the world in that post that within 6 months' time, I would be standing in that same place and I will have accomplished what I was setting out to do, which was sell our home, put our stuff in storage, and set off to spend the fall in Hawaii and start writing a book and some other things. And I can proudly share that that actually became a reality. I didn't actually find the exact spot that she was standing, but I was close. So this picture was taken in September of 2015. Having accomplished it within 6 months, almost to the day, we did this incredible act, which was to decide to uproot and make some big changes in our lives. And it was coming from my heart, but it was also, my family was very supportive of that. We knew we were ready to make some changes and just really follow our dreams. And one dream that I had had all my life was to live in Hawaii. And that's exactly what we did until December of last year. How that came into reality is a little more that I want to share with you, but hopefully you're a little inspired. That was a big inspiration for me. And part of the reason that that was even possible is for much of my life, I had been pretty obsessed with money, making money, working in the money business. I had grown up with very little. It was very stressful when I was growing up around money. And I made a decision early on that I wanted to be wealthy, whatever that meant. And I wanted to have choices and freedom. And I set about really mastering this thing called money in this world, however I could find. So getting an MBA in finance, going into financial services, learning everything I could to help myself and to help others with money. And so I did that for a long time. But I also had some tragedies start to happen in my life in the late 1990s that caused me, simultaneous to working my way up the career ladder, to begin a journey of inner reflection and inner discovery with meditation, with Buddhism, with spirituality, and exploring that simultaneously. Which is kind of an interesting thing because I don't know about you, but I drew this picture to kind of explain what this looked like to me. I kind of lived two worlds. I lived kind of pursuing my journey to the top of the spiritual mountain. And at the same time, I was pursuing this going to the top of the wealth mountain. And it was kind of like a split personality. Sometimes I lived in the spiritual world and sometimes I lived in the very material world. And it was kind of like these two jagged peaks. And I would go down one and go to the other and back and forth. And that was my life for many years. And it was pretty stressful until one day I started to realize that I had to figure out if there was actually a bridge between these two worlds, because I couldn't do it anymore. It just wasn't, it wasn't working for me. And I actually, in all fairness, had a hard time finding people that I could relate to as far as teachers were concerned, because most of them were either in one place or the other. So what I started to work on about 5 years ago is this concept of mindful wealth, which is really how I define this bridge between these two beautiful aspects of life. The idea that they don't have to be separate, that our inner wealth and our outer wealth can actually be joined and unified, and that it can become a harmonious dance that we live in rather than going down one and having to go to the other. So hopefully my pictures share some things with you that speak to you and perhaps you felt like you've been on before. But what what ended up happening is, as I started to research this and started to dive into this idea of mindful wealth and talk to a lot of people, I eventually ended up leaving my financial advising practice because I could tell that I was onto something, that there was a lot of interest in this idea of self-discovery through our journey in the material wealth, building material wealth. And but it also becoming a coach was a really scary thing for me because I didn't know if I would be good at it. I didn't know if I'd be able to help people. I had a lot of negative kind of self-doubt and limiting beliefs that kept me from thinking that I could do it. But eventually I stepped into this role of coaching and really started diving in and helping people at a deep level to what I now describe as helping people move through the blocks that keep them from doing what I talked about that I did with this trip to Hawaii, and being able to go after our biggest dreams and bring them into reality. I also, in the course of working with my clients, are a coach, or you've been a coach, or you've worked in any capacity like that, that most of the time when you're working with people, you're learning just as much as they are, and it's bringing things to light about yourself and the other individual, which is what makes it so exciting and interesting. So as I was working with my clients, I started to notice that there was several traits that people would um, get stuck in and not be able to get out, kind of like potholes in life. And I started to notice patterns. And one day I realized that I actually had clients that were in every single one of these potholes, if you will, these 7 ways that we unknowingly sabotage our ability to live fully, freely, and successfully. And that began me writing a book about this topic that I'm sharing with you today. It's not been finished yet, but I have a mini book that sort of introduces the concepts. But I want to go through these 7 ways that we engage in this unknowing sabotage. And they come from this scarcity mindset way of thinking. And that's kind of how it ties into money. Most of the time we think scarcity mindset, we think money and not having enough. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to break that open and go into greater depth of what that really is. What is scarcity mindset? And how does it sabotage our ability to do the things we want? So number 1, I'm just going to go through these briefly and then we'll dive into a few of them in more detail. But number 1 is thinking that you don't have what you need to be able to do the things that you want to do. I would say this one is the most debilitating, that if you don't cross number 1, it's hard to get to the other ones or understand kind of the next steps, but we'll go into that one in more depth. The next one is thinking that there isn't enough time, right? We all know this one. We are racing against the clock, right? Feeling like it's just always too much to do and not enough time to do it. The next is thinking that you aren't smart enough. I'll explain this a little bit more, but it's not just smart enough. It's more around confidence, having confidence in your abilities to do the things that you want to do. The next is thinking that you don't have enough money or resources to do the things that you want to do. And then you go on to thinking that you have to cut corners. And this is actually very much around repression. Like when we get repressed in the things that we know that we want to do, that oftentimes we end up getting angry, or we do things that are very sabotage oriented that we later think, oh my gosh, why did I do that? But that's what I'm talking about here. Sometimes it may be even cutting corners. I mean, I worked in the financial services business, right, for 25 years. I mean, talk about cutting corners. That's what led to, a big part of the whole recession of 2007, 8, 9, is was a tremendous amount of cutting corners being done, that people weren't looking at the big picture and just doing whatever made the most amount of money. So that's a big one. The next is thinking you aren't good enough. As you can imagine, this is a big one. This is a big one for everyone. At some level, everyone has something where they're like, deep inside, not quite sure that we're good enough to do the things that we want to do or say the things that we want to say. And then finally is this last one, which is kind of a big overarching picture of thinking that you can't get what you most deeply want in life. So those are the high level 7. Like I said, all of these derive from this scarcity mindset, thinking that we don't have something that we need and therefore we can't move forward with our wishes. And so I invite you to think for yourself, typically we're not going to be stuck in all 7 of these. We're going to probably have a few of them that are really looming in our life that are keeping us in that rut. And so I'm inviting you to think about where you might be stuck and where you might be ready for a breakthrough. So again, these 7 most common blocks that show up, what I thought I would do is talk about the first 3 because they're so important, and I think everyone struggles with them in some way, shape, or form. The first one is thinking that you don't have enough of what you need to do the things you want to do. And I'm just going to kind of channel a client of mine. She probably will be listening to this, but we've talked about this particular one at depth because it's been a story that she's experienced for much of her life. This feeling of, feeling alone, isolated, afraid, not having the support that you need. It's a collection of a lot of different things. It's not just money. Money may be the excuse, kind of the reason that you aren't pursuing perhaps starting a new business, which was my story for many years. I wanted to be a self-employed, but I was scared that I just didn't have what I needed to pull it together. And there was always a reason, there was always an excuse. And so this feeling that you're just stuck and you can't break free of that, of those beliefs that keep you look at your life, you think, well, I don't have enough money in the bank, I don't have enough expertise to be able to start, something new, whatever that may be. A lot of my work is oriented around entrepreneurs because I think that making that jump of going from being employed by others to self-employed is most definitely where number 1 is going to show up. It's going to be the thing that keeps you thinking you can't do it. There's too many reasons why you can't move forward. In all the work that I've done and all of these years of both, working towards earning money and then this inner work that I talk about a lot, I would say the biggest thing that can lead to a breakthrough in number 1 is around the inner work. Realizing, for me, it was about realizing that life is actually really, really short, almost like a water bubble that could burst at any time, and that we're fragile and that we don't really have any idea of when our life will end. And it sounds kind of morbid, but having practiced Buddhism for many, many years, I will tell you that one of the most effective ways to kind of bring our understanding of where we're stuck is this realization that we have, that there is an end to this clock. And so by looking at your own life and looking at situations where people have perhaps, not had the life that they thought they had. And unfortunately for me, I have had a lot of experiences where people who were very, very close to me died far too early in life. And it was really death that caused me to step out of my stupor and realize that there's only a little bit of time here, and that I really, really, really want to use my life in the most effective way possible. And so, I'm here to give you suggestions. This is one that's very powerful. May not be right for you, but it has really helped me to understand that message. Number 2 is around thinking that there's not enough time to do the things that you want to do. Obviously, we all are challenged by this. We live very busy lives that seem to be getting busier and busier every day. If you have children, if you, are married, you have friends, you have a job. I mean, the list is endless of all the things that you could do with your time. And what I found is that we have to really shift the way we think about time. Time is, in my opinion, even referencing the first one that I just talked about, time is our most precious asset. And when we think that it is not that, we tend to shortchange it and lose a lot of time. But when we bring time into full focus and realize that time is the thing that we can't get more of, whereas money is something that can always be, more money can always be earned, we shift our attention into thinking, what are the ways that I can start to change the way that I'm operating on a daily basis? And for me, that's really been about systematizing, really getting very clear that there are lots of different ways to manage my day, And I can make a choice if I'm going to squander it, on Facebook, or if I'm going to be really effective and find strategies that other people are teaching me that I can put to practice every single day. Things like time blocking, things like, at the end of your day, looking to the next day and saying, what do I plan to accomplish? And writing it down and being really clear when you start your day around that list and what you've agreed to yourself that you're going to accomplish. But there are many strategies. I just wanted to touch on the idea that when we think that there's a scarcity of time, it has a way of controlling our lives. But when we decide that we're going to take control of time, everything starts to change. And we do start to find a lot more time that we didn't realize was really waiting for us to discover. So the next one is thinking that you aren't smart enough. And like I said, this is more around confidence. But the one thing that I will tell you is a lot of my work, I tap into research and want to share the research out there that will help us kind of wake up around what's happening to us. And there are some researchers, the names are in the book that they're actually kind of hard to say, so I won't even try, but they're researchers around scarcity. And they found that when we go into a mindset around scarcity, so when we're worrying about not having enough of something, whether that be money, time, love, whatever you want to say, you feel a deficiency of, it actually, we exhibit a drop in our cognitive function similar to a 13-point dip in IQ. It's essentially similar to the loss of an entire night's of sleep. We know how we operate in that way. And it's been found that when scarcity is really affecting us, we are prone to making poor decisions. And the way I look at it is when we make poor decisions and we have a history of making poor decisions coming from this place of scarcity, over time, that eats away at our confidence. And so what's really fascinating, right? If you're a marketer, if you've ever, probably everyone's experienced when people have used scarcity to sort of get you to buy something, they're triggering this sort of mentality where we actually are not fully functioning with our brain in that moment and weighing the pros and cons of a purchase decision. We just buy because scarcity gets triggered. And so even just by knowing that this happens to us allows us to start to pay attention to things like, gosh, if I'm really in a bad place and I'm feeling really like there isn't enough, I need to be careful about the things that I buy, going on shopping sprees, for example, when we're in the dumps. Typically, we're going to spend more money when we don't feel good. So it's very helpful to be thinking about these things. But most important, what I want to say is that if we can learn that we do this stuff and that we have a choice to make better decisions, and that scarcity can be a weak point, we can navigate our life better so that we start to make decisions from the place of, not scarcity, from abundance. And we can start to stack little wins that help us to feel more confident about our decision-making ability. Because I think that's what really makes a big difference in our lives, is having confidence that we're doing the right thing, that we're supporting our needs and helping ourselves. So hopefully those three make sense. So I invite you to think about, what do you want to focus on? So what would you like to become more aware of? And what pothole do you find yourself stuck in? Because I truly believe that just bringing awareness to something is the beginning of the healing process. It's naturally going to be what you do next. You're going to start to find solutions. You're going to find partners. You're going to find people that can help you along your path, just by knowing that you have any of these tendencies. And when you focus on turning any one of these around, you take away their sabotage power and you start creating what you really want. You have what you need. There's plenty of time. You're plenty smart. You have plenty of resources. You don't have to cut corners. You're good enough, and probably much even more than that. And you absolutely, most definitely can get the things that you most want in your life. And, as I think about, wrapping up, I want to encourage you to dream big, that it all starts by asking for what you want. which may take some time to fully understand. I've seen that a lot of times people say, I'm not actually sure what I want. And I will tell you that that's totally natural and that it does take some time. We all have blocks to seeing it. We need to find supportive partners along this journey. It is hard to do it by yourself. Sometimes we need people to kick us in the pants. At least I did. And, I love being that person to help people kind of wake up to the things that they might not be able to see on their own, and being able to just believe that we really can have what we most want. And that by discovering the treasure of all of this, we actually learn about who we really are, our true selves. And then we share our treasure with our community, with our loved ones, with our, business associates. And what I found is by doing this work, this is all about being and doing fully who we really are here to be, and doing it with incredible love and genuine authenticity. And I think that I just can't think of anything better to ask for in one's life. This is some pictures. I just recently moved to Sedona, Arizona, and this was a family trip a week or so ago to the Grand Canyon. I really living this life that I can't say enough of good things about. What I have created, and I mentioned this, is a ebook that's a summary of all of these, just really short, about 14 pages long, where it gives you a great introduction to what we've been talking about here today. So if you want to get that, you can go to either of these links and download it. Also, at the same time that you go to download it, you'll be invited to attend a webinar, because what I found is we all have tons of content in our life. This work really shows up much better in context. And so the more that you can do around a group coaching experience, the better. And so my gift to you is, a week from today, I'll do a group coaching webinar where we can actually dive into your exact situations and what you're comfortable sharing, and use that experience together. Super fun to create that space together and just see what comes up. So that is what you can do on there. And also just feel free to connect with me. Here's some information, but I want to open it up and see if we have any questions.
Great. Thank you, Leisa. I'd like to remind everyone, if you do have questions now, you can type them into the chat box. And we did have some questions come in already. So I'll get started with the first one, which is, I catch myself thinking, I'll have that, or I'll live that way in a few years. I know I keep delaying my success. What tips do you have to help me get started on taking action today?
So I'm just feeling into this. What's coming up is just how important it is to really listen to yourself. I have an exercise that I always encourage people to do, and it's actually what led to my doing the whole Hawaii thing. And if you write to me, I think, contact me in any way, I can send it to you. But basically, it's an exercise I call the wealth flower. And it's about asking yourself, what do you really want? And it's itemized out. So it's like, what do I really want when it comes to money? What do I really want when it comes to my career? What do I really want when it comes to my health? And I think that we need to get in the habit of allowing ourselves to write down the things that we really want. It feels so selfish at first. It's kind of crazy. You kind of look over your shoulder and think, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. But it's wild abandonment once you get started. So I hope that helps answer that question, because it's a super fun exercise, and it will get you in the mood of like, wait a minute, there's a lot of things that I'm not pursuing in my life that I'm really wanting to do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And another question we have here is, do you have some strategies to quiet that little voice inside my head that's always criticizing or telling me I can't do something?
So, spoken from a lifelonger that had that problem, I will say that meditation was the thing that really made the biggest difference in my life. I think there's a lot of times when meditation gets misunderstood, people say, oh, it's about clearing your mind, clearing your mind. And I don't do meditation that way. I do meditation where I pick something, like something that I love, 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 like my children or my husband or a flower. And I will take the time in my meditation to focus on the thing that I love the most. And what happens is there's lots of science around this, is there's chemicals that are released in our bodies that help us to start to feel better and start to want to continue sitting down and maybe taking that 5 or 10 minutes every day, because when you do it, you feel so good because you're sitting there thinking about everything that you love. Like, how could you not feel better when you're done with that few minutes? And what happens over time is you're slowly but surely changing the whole context of your being, of one who's critical towards yourself and to others, to being one that's filled with love. And it really is a gradual process to be patient with, but I promise you the rewards are so substantial. It's worth just ever so, little effort in the beginning. I do have meditations on the Wealth Clinic site, lots of different ones, breathing and forgiveness and all kinds of good stuff. So go ahead and check those out because some of those might also help. Thank you.
Thanks. Another question is, there have been many days where, despite my plans and organizational efforts, I find myself getting distracted by things that really aren't priority. How can I stay focused to give myself enough time to accomplish everything?
So what's coming up with this question, and I hope this hits home, when I was talking about time, one of the most powerful things to learn about with time is the Pareto principle. So this 80-20 rule, there's actually books about it, which I would say might be a good thing to check out. But it's about really noticing that, when you look at the 100% of your time in any given day, we're most effective only about 20% of that time. Like 20% brings all the effectiveness, and the rest of the time is kind of wasted. And when we start to reconfigure how we're looking at our day, like, it is okay that we have downtime, but it would be very good to kind of plan the downtime, like plan it all, rather than having it be feeling like you're racing against the clock or not, doing the things that you want to get done. Plan for both. And I hope that helps. Or if there's more, I'm not sure if I helped on that question, but if there's more, please ask.
Okay, I'll let you know if there's a follow-up for that.
Okay.
And do you have time for one last question?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm realizing that in a lot of situations, I know what I should do, but I have trouble figuring out how I should do it. And that really makes me feel stuck. What are some ways to help me determine the how and make a move forward the next time I need to get moving on something?
Mm-hmm. So this is where journaling can be really powerful. Um, Journaling in such a way that it's very open, because it feels like it's almost like there's something stuck in this process that you're describing, where you know what you want and then you get stuck right before you're able to bring it into action. What I think would be really good is to almost give yourself long lists of all the potential things you could do, and then start to look at the different things that have come up. Some are going to seem like totally crazy, but my guess is there's going to be a few little nuggets that it's like, oh, I can totally do that. That's doable. I feel like that's part of the reason that coaches and mentors can be so helpful, to others, because I think all of us get a bit overwhelmed by, we know what we want to do. We just have a hard time with those initial steps to get the momentum going. There's a lot of fear that comes up. So another thing you could do is have an accountability, maybe someone who is at the same stage that you are. They're really wanting to do more things and they've got some big dreams. And you guys can tag team, where it's like you do the exercise, you share, and you help each other kind of take the next steps, like a brainstorming exercise together. Thank you. Hope that helps.
Okay, great. Well, I want to thank you, Leisa, for an excellent and inspiring presentation. I want to thank everyone who joined us today. We hope that you can join us again for future webinars. And a reminder, you can download Leisa's free ebook, and we'll also send the link out for it. And thank you again so much, Leisa.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.